certified master health and wellness coach, breastfeeding and lactation counseling, your diabetes, your health educator, and much more. Before we dive into today's discussion, however, I'd like to remind our viewers that if you have any questions, please use the Q&A feature or put them in the chat, and our panelists will answer them during the question and answer section of our program. I also want to thank our sponsor for today's webinar, the Colonized Hair and Body, a personal care brand that is the main economic development project of the African National Women's Organization. At the Colonialism Hair and Body, we understand that colonialism has a major impact on how we view and take care of ourselves, and thus believe that the practice of decolonization should be applied to our body, beauty, and personal care practices. After this important program, please go over to www.decolonized.com to support economic self-reliance for African women and femmes. Again, that's www.decolonized.com. To get started tonight, I want to bring forth members of the UKCC and AMWO comrades to discuss the next part of our program. So at this point, I'll hand it over to you, Rage. Uhuru.
Uhuru, I'm Rage. I'm the National Project Coordinator of the Uhuru Kijiji Child Care Collective, a member of the African National Women's Organization, and a parent myself. Today's webinar is an opportunity for us to take a look at the ways colonialism impacts our ability to parent our children and maintain mental stability at the same time. For me, colonized parenting has meant a constant struggle to maintain material needs such as food, clothes, and housing, and having to make choices under duress to ensure my own survival and that of my children. Self-care is an afterthought if thought of at all. And parenting while colonized has meant being judged for the way that I speak to my kids, the way I interact with them, and no acknowledgement for the fact that being African in this world often does not allow for softness. No acknowledgement for the fact that I discipline my children with the intention of keeping them alive and not necessarily creating law-abiding citizens. My parenting while colonized has often meant feeling isolated, stressed out, hopeless, and trapped in my situation. Sometimes revolution seems like a dream, and I only have the capacity to deal with what's directly in front of me. But every contradiction I'm facing is designed to keep me subjugated under colonial capitalist domination. The only way out is through building a network of support that we can lean on and providing those resources for ourselves by ourselves. Uhuru, I'm gonna pass it on to Parrish.
Uhuru comrades, my name is Parrish, and I am the outreach coordinator for the Uhuru Kijiji Child Care Collective, and myself as well am a parent. And some of the things that I've faced just making parenting a little tough through colonialism would be, raising a Black child in the school system and having to make, certain decisions on whether or not, to keep him in the public school system, or, to have my child be subject to the many ways that colonialism teaches and the way that they choose to deal with our Black boys. But as African women, we understand that the struggle for Black people, that we're up against colonialism and not racism, and that colonialism is even the cause of all the bad stuff that happens to us as women, not patriarchy. And the way that colonialism is defined is, the policy or the practice of acquiring full or partial political control over another country, occupying it with settlers and exploiting it economically. But that definition is a little too clinical, and it doesn't really say anything about what colonialism is and who it affects. So colonialism emerged within capitalism, which is a worldwide system of exploitation and violence that began with the European assault on Africa. And it was the rape of Africa, which led to the rape of those African women, whose wombs in turn became the human factories upon which parasitic capitalism depended. And it is a brutal system that imposes the white ruling class's will on the people that they oppress. And it does this through violence, by erecting governments, rules, laws, schools, ministries, and economies that protect the interests of the ruling class. Now, while colonialism is embedded in all aspects of our lives, through the food that we eat, the air that we breathe, the music we listen to, the way that we raise our children, and all of it serves to sustain the life of the colonizers. So here, I'll pass it back to Comrade Rage.
Uhuru, who is today's colonized African woman or femme? They are the office worker who endures characterizations of being unfriendly, antisocial, a mean person. They're the mother or parent who is fighting to regain custody of their children from the state, facing criminalization from the state and indictment from their community. They're the person carrying the financial weight of their entire family, forced to marry for a dowry. They're the person who enjoys themselves too loudly in public spaces and had the police called on them for disturbing white people's peace. They are a person who is forced to make a decision about their body and reproduction based on colonial conditions. They're a woman, a girl, or a person trapped by antiquated traditions that lock them into a life of servitude and isolation. She is the pig Black cop, military or employee of the colonial government, including the workers that carry out their job taking children from Black families. They're the mothers and parents that bury their children too soon because of colonial violence from the states or from within our community. They're the parent that dies in childbirth. They are you, an African person, trudging through life, minding your business, only to be stopped by a burning spear salesperson talking to you about revolution. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Thank you, Rach. And we would like to hear more from our viewers tonight about what effects has colonization had on your parenting journey. And for me, it has had a great impact. I am the mother of a child with special needs, and she's an adult now, but as she was growing up, she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And what was so amazing to me is everything that happened, no matter how she felt, no matter what, it was all my fault. She's acting out in school because you have lupus. She's acting out in school because something weird is going on in your home. It was always the fault of the parent. I've spoken to, white women about this, and they didn't seem to have the same problems that I had. There was a time when I refused to give my child a certain medication because it had adverse effects. And the therapist threatened to, call CPS and have my child removed because I didn't feel like this was the medication. I was at that point in a position where I could fight it, should it happen. But there are too many women out here, too many parents out here who have no solution. They feel they have to do these things because they've been told to do it. And because they've been threatened by the state or a doctor or something, they feel like they have no recourse. And I think that, to me, that is insane. And that's something that many of us deal with in the course of a day when we deal with our children. We're always looked at as, let me rephrase it, I was always looked at as the villain because I had an opinion. I stood up for myself. I tried to stand up for my children, and that did not go over well. We survived it, but I will never forget those feelings of guilt, those feelings of not doing enough, being inadequate. And I think a lot of times that's what the society wanted me to feel, so that I would acquiesce to white world's, version of how I should raise my child. So what I want to do is I want to open it up and see if anybody else wants to share their story. I know my story could go forever, so I want to give this to someone else. Does anybody else want to jump in? Absolutely.
Hi, I'm Sage. I kind of have a same issue too. I have a son who has autism. And so the state is constantly, in my business, and, they get to decide what school he goes to. And I want him to go to a different school, and it's just because I have like a custody court thing going on, it's just always like give and take. And so if they don't like my idea of a school or something like that, the other side gets to, it's just a lot of drama. And then also there's this, a lot of people try to, tell your kid to take medicine. And I'm like, no, I'm fighting against that as well. But the colonialized world wants him to be on medicine. And I don't want that. I've been fighting that battle for a long time, and the COVID shot, and so it's just a lot. Yeah.
Uhuru, I absolutely understand. I remember that vividly. And stick to your guns is the only thing that I can say. If I had one, word of advice, just do what you're doing now. Does anybody else want to share?
Uhuru, Comrade Sangha, you raised your hand.
Thank you. I couldn't unmute. I couldn't unmute. Uhuru, everybody. Boy, stop echoing me. This is my grandson. But what I wanted to say was that this colonial system not only makes it hard, but again, it calls you out as a parent, saying that you're not doing enough as a parent. And what it is they're not doing anything. And when you try to assert yourself as a parent, they demoralize you once again. They make you seem like you're hostile, and it's in our children's best interest when we make sure we fight for what's right, because at the end of the day, they don't care about our children. We have to unite and know that it's us that have to collectively come together and teach our children the love and respect, because when you do send your children to school, that's the first encounter of violence that they ever have. And it's so impactful because they come home wondering, why did an adult treat them, with disrespect and disregard? And that's hard to explain to a child when you don't understand it yourself, when you're sitting here saying, this is my child and I'm going to defend my child, and they're telling you you're wrong for defending yourself and your children. And so we have to understand that that's the way this system was created, to keep our children, either under medication or going to jail or being, hypnotized and brainwashed to thinking, what they're teaching them, is right. And we all know it's wrong, especially when your child comes home and tell you about, wars and destruction and stuff like that. That's not what it's about. So it's all about our collective learning and teaching of our children, because we don't want them to have to encounter violence that, they don't have to encounter. They're going to encounter a lot anyway, but we can, stop that trend by teaching and being educators as women, as we are, in film, to collectively, come together as teachers, mothers, and, teach the life learned skills that we need of communication, of critical thinking, of loving and caring each other and being self-sustainable. Those are the things that, as a culture, we can teach our children. And I think it's so good that it's us and not them teaching, because the oppressor is not going to give you the tools to not to be oppressed. And that's in all aspects, especially, with our kids going to school, because, that's their first education. And if they get the wrong education, then we have to decolonize them from that education. But if they start off knowing the truth and knowing what's going on, then we won't have to decolonize them. You hear me?
Agreed. I just recently needed to go down to my grandson's school with my daughter because they changed slavery into indentured servitude. These are the things that as parents we will be up against, and we need to know how to fight that kind of injustice. They didn't pay my people to come over here on the boat. They forced us over here. This is not indentured servitude. It is absolute slavery. So these, like you said, these are some of the things that as parents we have to get involved with. And yes, we become emotional because when my daughter told me what happened, I honestly just wanted to cry because damn, to me, it's like you guys are taking this way far. And as a community, we have to know how to fight this type of emotional violence as well. So I just want to say thank you for that. And if anybody else wants to speak, I know Bola, I think you had some things you wanted to say.
Uhuru. Thank you, Hada. I will look at it in a different way. I think that I'm an old school mama, and I was always taught that if you don't teach your children at home, then be careful of what they're going to come home with. And so I always made sure I inserted myself and taught my children at home what I needed them to know. And I've always told them I don't care about grades because the grading system is one of the colonial systems in place to make our children believe that they're inadequate, that because they are a C or a D or an A, or that gives them the hierarchies that they need to base themselves on. And so what I do with my own children is, okay, what did you learn? Now apply it in my house or apply it in the world. And so if you don't know what convection is when you go to science class, and you don't know that that means the water is boiling in your kitchen, you didn't learn what you needed to learn in science class. So if we test our children and we engage with them and let them know, look, we've already been through this. So we should have a little bit more empathy with them, because who in the world can sit 8 hours straight in a classroom? Not me. So why would they expect our children to be able to do that? And so that's part of the system. We as African people think completely differently. We are a spiritual people. And so I don't know how many of your children know how to do like math in their head. This is something that we as African people naturally know how to do. And so I know I grew up personally, I know a lot of people that got in trouble for not showing their work in math class because they just, boom, they knew the answer and didn't understand how they knew the answer. And I think when we understand who we are as a people and how intelligent we are, we can instill that in our children. Uhuru.
Can I just share that you just normalized math for me right now? Like, I always thought I struggled in math and I was always getting in trouble. And for the first time, I'm hearing somebody else got in trouble for that too, because I was one of the only Black kids in my class. There were other Black kids, but her parents were doctors. So, and my parents were working class parents. And her parents could pass for white. She did not, but her parents could pass for white. They were and that made a difference in the way her parents were treated versus how my parents were treated. And for the first time ever, because she got straight A's almost all throughout high school and elementary school, because we're both adopted. And so we had a whole different kind of dynamic. And she was adopted at birth and I was adopted as a kid. We had a whole different kind of dynamic. So her education story looks different than mine. And I'm not saying it's bad or right, because I know she happens to be my best friend, my sister, and I know the things that she struggled with. Even in that, it just looked different. And math was really hard for me, but I did get it right. I remember sitting in class and being like, I got it right. And I know I knew what I was, and I wasn't cheating, but feeling like I was a cheater. Like, and then having to explain something I didn't know how to articulate. Whew, that was very powerful. Like, thank you. Like, and this is what these spaces are for. And I know we're going to get into that later. So I'm gonna let the next person talk.
Ooh, I absolutely appreciate that. I think most of us struggled with something very similar, or at least our children did. So yeah, that is so common. Thank you for that. Did anybody else want to talk about anything real quick before we move on to the next chapter? No hands up? Okay. Well, and thank you all for engaging in that discussion. Next, we will talk with Comrade Amanda, and she's here to address the consequences of parenting while colonized. Amanda, the floor is yours.
Uhuru Hadai. And I definitely struggle with math. So thank you as well for, addressing that again, because like the biggest threat, right, this is a threat to our people. And so my name is Amanda, like Hadai said, and I am the National Recruitment Coordinator for the UKCC and also a member of the African National Women's Organization. And so we face so many threats, right, as colonized individuals in what they call these United States of America or anywhere that we are. And the biggest one is judgment. We talked today about the stories that, that we've faced, and it's come from the judgment of others because they have the power to judge your actions. That is a threat to you, because anybody that has the power over you or to say that your actions is wrong is a threat, right? And we think about mandated reporting. And if you don't know what mandated reporting is, I would tell you that you should write this down so that you can go and do some research on mandated reporting, because it is one of the biggest threats, right? Because they have now mobilized and armed just everybody. I mean, somebody anonymous that doesn't even know your name could see you in the shopping, in the restaurant or in the grocery store with your child and make a report on you and be protected because they are a mandated reporter, because they feel like their feelings about what you are doing matters. And that's a threat to us, right? And then also you think about the school system. You think about the medical system, these institutions that have been created that they say are supposed to help and protect us and to make us better or whatever they say, but actually they are one of the biggest and well-funded threats to our people, right? You go into the hospital and you can leave, one, without your life, where you're just not leaving, right? Because you don't have a life, or you can leave without your child, right? You can leave, you can go in here thinking that you're getting help and leave just messed up, right? And then we think about the lack of childcare and lack of resources as a threat, because this system has been able to set up these conditions to keep us exactly where we are and then call it our fault, right? And so then they sit here and they tell us that we're the problem, that we're the problem, and then that becomes a threat to our mental health, because we're sitting here thinking it's us all along, it's them. When this is the biggest threat to us. And when I think about who we are trying to talk to today, sometimes we are talking to people that don't know that they are colonized and can't see the threat, right? And so we need everybody to understand that we are at war with this system and that we are living under a constant threat. And the only way that we come together, or we go after this threat, is to come together. Because I'm here today to talk about the African National Women's Organization and the Arrest CPS campaign. And it's to expose, right? The Arrest CPS campaign is to expose the parasitic nature of the foster care system and the devastating role it plays in the lives of Black families. We want to see children return to their homes and resources allocated by the state go directly to the family, because we know that's not what's happening right now. Ensuring successful reunification, because anything less than that is an act of genocide. And when I think about this topic tonight, parenting through colonialism, I mean, we need to understand that. And when people understand that, I think that we can move this forward, because I think of 2 children that were just kidnapped in Howard County, Maryland, just on Tuesday. On Tuesday night. So on Monday night, this mother went to bed with her children. She breastfed her 3-month-old baby girl. And then on Tuesday night, she was surrounded, her and the children's father were surrounded by law enforcement and child protective service agencies, workers, and told that they must hand over their children and they must go to the hospital. when they haven't done anything to their kids. This is the threat that we live under, that people have the power. And so we say, well, you have to have a judge's order. They had to do something. Well, I've seen the paperwork. They had no judge's order. They simply had a piece of paper signed by a director that just gets hired at a job. These people are just simply people, but they have the power to take someone's child. And so they got surrounded by law enforcement. Their children were taken from them. They talk about having to follow the ambulance and not even know where their babies were going at that point. And they're following the ambulance, and they get to the hospital just to get enough information to register their children into the system. And then they tell them they have to leave. They kick them out. They don't even care how this child, this breastfeeding child is going to eat. And they kick the parents out and then say that the children are medically neglected because neither of the children are verbal. And the history comes from the parents that they kicked out. But again, that's the threat that this system has, because they have the power to create whatever narrative that they want to create, because they have the doctors, they have the school system, they have law enforcement, and every other system that was created to trap us, threaten us, and make sure that we stay exactly where we are. And again, that is the biggest threat. The biggest threat is that each and every one of these systems are so interconnected, and they continue to attack our people over and over again. But I know that the Kijiji Child Care Collective is the solution. If this family in Maryland had a Kijiji, they could show up and stand in between these law enforcement officers and CPS to say enough is enough, and be able to communicate and stop this from happening, and to keep these children in our community. Because understand that every 2 minutes, a child is taken from their home. And so think about how many children will be taken on this call tonight. And so it is so important that we organize and we mobilize to stop this. We want to ensure that we already have the protections in place prior to the kidnapping of our children, prior to the school system calling or any other system that's trying to attack us. But understand that you, me, your neighbor, your sister, your cousin, we are all the solution to this parasitic system. So if you're watching this and you are an African woman, you should be joining ANWO, right? You should be joining ANWO, and then you should be starting your Kijiji, because we can't wait until the system threatens us or attacks us to start to find solutions and fight back. We have to be the solution and be ready and be prepared. And so again, I'm always excited, to be here and to talk about this, right? Because I know we winning. Right? I know we're winning, and that we are going to fight like hell to take this system down. And we just need more and more African women to join us on the front lines of this fight. And so Uhuru, comrades, and I'm gonna pass it back to you, Hada.
No, you can go ahead. I'm feeling that, girl. I am. Thank you, though. Thank you for sharing this narrative, because it embraces the essential role that we can play in kind of keeping the thread of the African family. Trauma comes in so many forms, and it directly affects us in so many ways, particularly if we're parents. And even in lots of our families, a lot of us are living with generational trauma. So it goes so deep. Like for me, the murder of Tyre Nichols, he could be my son, my father, my brother, my daughter. It caused so much angst and fear in me when I saw him being beaten on TV. We can at least try to do something about that. And not only that, but it also reminded me that if we use our skills to serve towards the liberation of African people, we can organize. Like the community, the African community has the capacity to operate independent of the colonial state, because all they want to do is oppress and dominate every aspect of our life. And we have to fight this. And that is going to be the role of the UKCC, to be the answer to CPS, to be the answer to this ugliness that we see every day. So thank you, Amanda, for that. Thank you so much. In the next section, we're going to talk about the way forward. We're going to talk to comrades Nicole and Bola. So ladies, please take the floor.
Uhuru, you listen, Amanda.
Girl.
You touched on all of it. And the way forward is community. Get you a tribe. And we are that tribe. I joined the movement a couple of months ago, and I'm so thankful. When I say I can't even start to imagine where you guys have been my whole life and where I would be if I was 18, 19, 20 years old with something like this behind me. I'm a new mom, meaning I have someone that under the age of 5. And when I tell you, I worked with kids for, I want to say the last 17 years, and children, all ages, but especially 5 through 18. I did K through 12 and after school. That's where I started. And then I went on to mental health, and I worked in an after school program, and then I directed one, and I got to see the parents and the kids coming from all walks of life, but mostly, our African kids. And the way that they looked at me, even the parents being able to speak their language, I thought I knew kids, and then I had my own. And it's a whole new thing. And it's scary sometimes. And it's frustrating more times than moms want to admit. And it's beautiful and lovely and all the good things. But it being African and an African parent in a world that hates you, and the world hates you, and then therefore they hate your children. There's nothing like being around women that we can discuss this, we can process it, we can then find solutions to what do we do about it. And that's what the Kijiji is all about. So as we move forward, I'm going to invite my sister up to introduce herself, and she's going to talk a little bit about what we can put in our bodies and how our bodies impact our children and what they're eating, sleep, all that good stuff. So I'm gonna hand this over to you.
Uhuru. Thank you, Nicole. So I'm gonna share with you a little bit of what happened to me. So my son, when I came, I'm Nigerian, born and raised in Minnesota. Don't even ask. And so coming from Minnesota to Florida, I had already known that this state has the most schools with the lowest education rate. So we already know you need to research what you're going to do if you're going to have children, whatever that is. So I got here, and maybe 2 years, 3 years later, I ended up having my son. So I was able to research scholarships to put him into pre-K. So he went into Montessori, and that was thank God. And but what I did was I packed him a lunch one day. He was 4 years old. And I put in, what is those things? Come on, I know they're like to-go crackers, cheese. What are they called?
Lunchables.
Lunchables, thank you. Okay, so I took them that lunch, and they said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "What?" And I was young, Mom. I was like, well, young in my world. I was like 25. Everybody said, "Bo, you old." And so I said, "What do you mean?" They said, "Do you expect your son to be able to think with eating processed cheese and processed crackers and whatever this is?" And I was like, "Oh, even though I had my mother here, my mother didn't, she didn't tell me that." And so they said, "Don't you bring this again. You get," and they were like, "fruits, vegetables, and limit any processed food. Don't even give him processed food, da 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 da." I wish I would have listened. Outside of taking his lunch to school. But so anyway, I was blessed to be able to have all of the teachers of a Montessori are typically foreigners. And so they're not American. And so therefore you're going to be able to have that openness where they're going to keep it real with you. And I was blessed because I was able to learn at a young age what to feed my son. However, he went into the school system, and they wanted to, when I put him in public, he was probably first grade, and they said he had ADHD. And I said, excuse me? By then I had already researched natural and all that. And I was like, oh, okay, well, he's not gonna go on a med. So Chinese alternative to ADHD medicines are green tea. So I started to give my son green tea, and boom, he was calm. I think I gave him too much because he became real calm. And I'm like, you okay? However, he was able to focus. And so that let me know right then, boom. And I knew earlier that, you don't give them processed stuff, whatever, but I was still young and I didn't know everything. We never will. So, but it helped him. And that was what I needed. But also what I had to do was insert myself into the school system. So they saw me, they knew me. When I put him in the public school system, he was the only brown boy at that time. And so I made sure that his lunches were always correct and that he didn't get the stuff that was going to get him hyper, because he wouldn't be able to sit 8 hours, and they were already looking at him because he was one of the only brown boys in there, so they could pick on him, they could do whatever. But I had to let them know he had a crazy mama. And that's one thing, you need to be a crazy mama with being a calm, intelligent mama, because they want us to we don't have to do that. Remain calm and be an advocate for your child, and they will understand that you mean business. So when it comes to the food plate, I just learned 2 years ago when I had to go back to school in order for health and wellness coaches to become board certified. And I said, I really cried when I saw the list of all of the diseases and illnesses that are caused by nutritional deficit, from ADHD, bipolar, cancer, you name it. There's just diabetes. I mean, it's just crazy. And I'm thinking, doctors, all they have to do is tell people to eat right, lose weight. And you mean to tell me that they wouldn't have to be on these fake meds for prediabetes? And so I said, no way, I'm done. I said, I'm gonna stop playing around with my people because we have been lied to. I found out in these classes, 116 years, the FDA has never changed the My Food Plate. If you look at it, it's just changed. It's never changed. They'll move it around. And so DDD, we don't do dairy. We don't do dairy. We don't do dairy. And I didn't even understand until starting to realize why my God made me have to take care of my mother and father, to learn our old ways. And we didn't eat eggs for breakfast. We didn't eat chicken all the time. Chicken was like a delicatessen. We ate herbs, we ate fruits and vegetables, we ate of the land, we ate fresh fish. And so during the slavery trade, they started to introduce their foods to us. They started to throw their crops at us. And so we had to make use of what they were giving. And so people started to adopt that into what we want to call soul food, what we want to call Black cuisine. And so we have to realize that that's not our original cuisine. And it took me a while. I had to learn, going the hard way, that my son got a blockage. And this was before Miralax was ever out on the counter, over the counter. And he was maybe about 7, 8, and he couldn't go to the bathroom. And so I was like, doctors, what's going on here? And they're like, he has an obstruction. And I said, what is that from? Why would he have an obstruction? And they're like, well, are you giving him processed food? And I'm like, processed food? No. So you don't make that correlation when you're young. You're like, happy meal, happy meal, happy meal. You're serving them good food at home, but you're still on the go, giving them French fries, giving them that burger that's not really a burger, not meat. The French fries aren't potatoes. And so he got that blockage. I had to fight for Miralax because it was, I was on Medicaid, and they were like, no, you can't have this. And I said, but this is the only med that the doctor said would help him to extract and clear it. They said, well, unfortunately, Medicare doesn't cover it. So I had to write to the Medicaid people, send an email. I had to write to them, and I said, you're telling me that the only med that's going to save my child's life, you're not going to give it to me? So bam, I got it. However, I had to fight for it. because they're not going to just give it to you because he was an African-American boy. So why would they want to save him? However, he was not just any African-American boy, he was mine. So therefore, I'm going to fight for him. And as mothers, that's what we have to do. We have to be the advocates of our children. One of the things that I'm big on, especially because they want to label our children with ADHD and bipolar disorder, both of those are from our PFC, which is your prefrontal cortex. So those of you who already know what that is, that's the decision portion making of our brain. That's controlled by omega-3. So what is an omega-3? Fish oil. However, umpteen years of researching, the fish oils that you're seeing out there have the fake fish in them. So you have to be careful of where you're buying it, because when you have the cheap vitamins in the dollar store or in impoverished communities, they're made out of fake salmon, mackerel, sardines. These are fishes that our people we don't eat. So therefore, we don't eat tuna in a can. We don't eat that kind of stuff. We eat fresh snapper. We eat wild caught salmon, because that's where the omega-3s are in their skin, because they're absorbing that from the nutrients in the oceans. And so our fishes that they want to give us in a store are not real. So they're not giving our children the right omega-3. So we have to research and understand, where do we get that then? We get that from flaxseed. We get that from chia seed. We get that from sea moss, which my sister Nicole is going to go into a little bit later more, and at the convention in depth. So we have to understand that if we don't give our children or ourselves these, then we're not making the right decisions. We're not able to do the research that we need to make our children able to handle this system. Get in the system and understand the system to know how to overcome the system and create a new, is what I believe. I'm gonna go on because I know I can talk forever about food. I'm gonna pass it back over to Nicole so she can add some more.
Okay, so I wanted, we're not going to necessarily get into diet and some of the ways that we can help our body, even though I want to, but we will come back. I promise. I'm going to do a quick plug. We are having our African National Women's Organization convention in March, and we will go over that when we get to that convention, and we'll have more information towards the end of our stay today. With that said, we want to help you become, part of the solution in helping our community become whole. And the Kijiji Collective really, really does that very well. And I keep saying it's important that I'm here, like it's really changed my life. So the other aspect I want to go into before that is self-care, the importance of self-care. I'm going to keep it very, very brief, but a part of being a part of the movement, we have to take care of ourselves. I don't know if you guys have heard, I know I've heard the story time and time again of when you get on an airplane, you got to make sure that you can breathe in order to help somebody else breathe. That's the concept of mothering. And especially in this day and age, I was telling my sisters earlier that I was really tired this week and I was really emotional this week. And I needed to say that out loud. And so that's part of self-care, being around your sisters, being around people that are like-minded, just like you are, like have the same mind that you do. And self-care doesn't always have to cost money. It could be very free. It could be getting up. I get up sometimes 30 to 60 minutes before my child does. And I make sure that I spend some time with myself. And sometimes that's doing nothing but laying in the bed. And sometimes it's me going up and taking a walk. And sometimes it's me listening to, for me, worship music. And for you, it might be, hip hop, whatever it moves your spirit. That's what you need. And self-care is a part of that. Being able to drink enough water, that's self-care. Being able to move your body, that's self-care. Being able to sing a song, even if your voice, you think you don't have a good voice, sing in the shower. It's something as little as that we don't really find to be big deals, but it's a really big deal because yourself is the most important thing. We cannot be good mothers. And it's the concept of good and bad moms. I actually really hate that because sometimes I'm great and sometimes I'm not great, and that's okay too. It is okay for you not to be okay. We live in a system that has literally was designed for us to fail specifically. And so give yourself grace. If I could say anything, it's the grace. I wish my mom had given herself grace. I wish my grandmother had given herself grace, and all the women that came before her. We are a new generation, and it's time. Our children need to be okay, and they will not be okay if we're not okay. And so we have to learn how to do it. And some of the ways to do it, a little bit more complicated sometimes, like maybe therapy, but being able to, when you're going to do therapy, make sure that you're with a woman maybe that looks like you. And maybe you can't find a woman that looks like you, but you can find another woman of color. They will understand a little bit more than the other ones do. And I know sometimes we don't have therapy, but maybe you have a journal. Maybe you could write down your thoughts. If you don't have a journal, maybe you could just listen to a song and dance, because trauma is stored in our bodies. And so you know how we get it out? We move. We have to move. And the Kijiji Collective, it is an organization of movement, period. So if I could say anything, I will say this: join today. Go tell your sister friend that she needs to join too. Because when I heal, you heal, we all heal. And that's how we fight this thing we call colonialism. It's with each other. And so I'm going to then open it up for any questions or comments. I think I saw a question in the chat. I'm going to open it up.
Is there a question in the chat?
It looks like that question that was in the chat was answered. Does anybody have any comments?
Uhuru, we have a couple of comments on Facebook. There was one from Umi Rivers. She said, Uhuru, critical race theory in the school system is waking up parents and encouraging them to homeschool and or build our own collectives and institutions. Colonization has blacked out our relevance and the power in our story by whitewash. These same schools allow language and arts programs from other races and cultures, Mandarin classes, Latin, Spanish, French, etc. When we play in their system, we play by their rules. Let's build our own. And I just wanted to share that because that's exactly what we're talking about here. We're talking about taking control of our children's lives. This state, this system, it has control of every aspect of our lives, including how we interact with our children, how we provide for them, how we educate them. And the Uhuru Kijiji Child Care Collective is an opportunity to address all of that and begin creating our own institutions and support systems to care for our children.
Uhuru, thank you for that.
Uhuru Rich, thank you.
I just want to touch on something earlier that was said in regards to us extending grace. And a lot of us were mothered by like hurt women, and they didn't know how to process the trauma and turmoil and the colonialism that they faced. And so the importance of therapy or counseling or journaling, I'm a big advocate for journaling, just getting the thoughts and emotions like out of your body and onto paper. And then just highlighting community and sisterhood and what it looks like to show up for one another. I know a lot of times we won't be okay, and somebody will ask us like if we're all right. You're like, oh yeah, we're fine, we got it, or it's fine, or I'll be okay, or just let me get through this week. And a lot of times we're totally not there mentally or emotionally. And as stated earlier, we have to be well in order to parent and to parent effectively, and also to be in the fight against colonialism, and to be able to organize. And I wanted to, if someone can expound upon a little bit of the shame of mental health, and how how do we combat like opening up and, you know, feeling comfortable and safe?
Ooh, I'll touch a little bit on that because I've dealt with it for 22 years. My mother was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. And so I've taken care of her for that amount of time. But when we were younger, we didn't know. And when I got older and I started to see things and she would tell me things, I didn't tell anybody. Who was I going to tell? A friend? Yeah, right. My friends didn't know what I was going through. I'm first generation and had to figure out a whole lot of stuff because my parents didn't know the American ways. So we learned in the streets. And so why am I going to, if it's a stigma here, it's to the 10th degree over in Nigeria for mental illness. And so you don't talk about that. You don't deal with that. And so you covered it up. And a lot of it was covered with alcohol, drugs. You sweep it under. And I think I only shared maybe 2-3 years ago with some of my best friends as to what I was going through in the 20s and the 30s, and that I was figuring it out. I was talking to my spirit throughout the entire time, except trying to shut her out at the same time. And we do that. And I love, Parrish, that you said, when someone asks, are you okay? Oh man, can we cover it up? I was the best at because that was instilled in us. And I don't know how many households are on this call right now that you keep your stuff from your family in the house. You don't take it outside. You don't tell nobody your business because that was going to be a bad reflection on your house or your father. And so once again, it's swept under the rug where you deal with it on your own. And so there's been so much stigma in our communities not to share, not to tell what's really going on, that we've become trapped. Somebody said it earlier, trauma, and I believe it was Nicole, trauma is trapped in our bodies and we are in pain because we're keeping it in there. But let me tell you, we can get it out. So when I found out Reiki healing was energy healing, I was like, what? Are you kidding me? We've been doing this all years and years. Why are they trying to call it some Reiki? People, you can get rid of your trauma, but you need support. Don't try to do it on your own. You don't have to do it on your own. And I love that, Nicole, you keep putting that into everybody. That's why you need to join. That's why you need a sister. That's why you need to be here, because together, unity. What does Umoja mean? I didn't even know why I was Queen Umoja princess when I was in high school. I was like, why can't I be Snow Days queen? Why do I have to be Umoja? I didn't even know that unity is what it means. And so we need to understand that there's been a plan, but we need to do our own parts, and everybody has their own role. And when we all realize, stop comparing ourselves to the next one, because you are an individual. So therefore, what your gifts are only going to enhance the next sister next to you. So together, we create synergy. And that's how we're going to get a whole lot of things accomplished. Ooh.
I wanted to add to that. Some of us have been in darkness for so long, we don't understand what it looks like, what we look like in the light. But I guarantee you, when you get into community and community starts to download who you are and remind you in case you've forgotten, or even expose you to who you are because nobody ever taught you. This is when you said, Willa, when you said we sweep it under the rug, we are now not doing that. No more. We can no longer do that. This is a call for action. And at the end of the day, I know that there's work to do, but this work starts in our minds. This work starts in our heart. This work starts with the words that we speak to each other and words that we speak to ourselves. There's life or death in the power of our words. And we have to know that. And we have to operate knowing that. So this literally, and we're going to get to this, and this is a call for action. This is a call for you to move. If you were on this video right now, if you're on this video, I want you to make a decision. And because it is life or death. And I want you, when you're done, I want you to sit with it. And I want you to thank yourself for doing yourself a favor. And then I want you to share it with your sister friends. Because when I tell you, coming and stepping out of darkness, and darkness is when you don't know anything. But when you step into knowledge, you're stepping into light, and then you're stepping into the light that's within you, and you won't help to want to operate differently. And you won't help, like, you'll want to tell somebody and then tell somebody to tell somebody. We need you to tell somebody, because I want to be free. I want to be a huru. That's what if in case y'all didn't know, a huru means free. And that's what I want to be. And I want you to be with me. I want you to come with me. We can't do this by ourselves. We just can't. And for a long time with mothering, mind you, I've only been a mother for 4 years, but it feels like 40. I feel like I didn't want to say this because I was embarrassed. I didn't want to say this because I don't want to seem like I don't have it. I'm an older mom, 37 years old. My child's 4, and I feel like I should have it all. I should know it all. I've been here for 37 years, and now here I am, and I'm like, oh, I don't know it. And it's okay that I don't know it. I have to say that to self, because it's okay that I don't know it. I'm learning. I tell my husband this all the time about our child. She's only been here for 4 years. Well, guess what? I've only been a mom for 4 years. And then on top of that, I'm having to deal with colonialism in the workplace. I can't just raise my child in the way that I want to, but I can. Now I know that I can. But before, I didn't think I knew I could. I thought I was going to have to fall in line. I'm not falling in line, and I'm asking you not to do it either. Okay, I'm going to give this back to our host.
Nicole, I'm not mad at you. I understand, man. It's incredible what we go through as parents. And whether you're an older parent or a younger parent, it feels the same, because you know nothing. You don't know. You thought you had it together. And then this little person comes and you are responsible for this whole little life. Like, I don't know what the hell to do with it, change it and love it. And that's all we could do is love it to the very best of our ability. So thank you for that. It makes a hell of a difference. I was listening to you, forgot where we were. Anyway, I'd like to give a brief introduction to the UKCC for a deeper, so everybody can get a deeper explanation of our program. Comrade Rage, do you have the slides?
1 second.
All right. Thank you. And these are just, they're on slides with the basic bullet points of what we do. There's so much more. We just couldn't have 1,000 slides. So we just have a few to give everybody an idea of how UKCC works, what we do, and a few of our accomplishments. Before we start, did anybody have any comments on what Nicole and Bola said? Or any questions?
Okay. I'm sorry, Hannah. Yeah, I just wanted to appreciate the comrades before me that have spoken, and just, everyone's insight. And I think this, I just really want to give a big salute to ANWO and for the work that ANWO has been doing to build their Uhuru Child Care Collective. And I think this is incredible work. And like Nicole said, tell somebody, and had him tell somebody, because I think every Black mother needs to hear this. Every Black mother needs to be a part of this. We need this kind of support. We need to know that this is here. Oftentimes we're like kind of in a place where at some point, I think probably, and I haven't been a mother long, but that we, experience, always experiencing not knowing. And I know this from, my mother always telling me this, but that, we sometimes will question something that may be in the best interest of our child because of how the state may respond or how, you know, your nosy neighbor or whatever may respond to it. But just knowing that you have like real support, genuine, honest, loyal support, like the citizens of the Khadijah Child Care is, I think, extremely important, because it's more than just how somebody feels personally about you as a mother, but just to know that, like, if there's something on here that or someone on here that we may not believe in the exact same things, or we might, but just the fact that the sisters in Anwo are struggling for you to be liberated. So it doesn't matter if I necessarily believe in the same things you, but I believe that you have a right to believe into parent your child as you choose. So, and the state never works in the best interest of the child. It's in the interest of money. We all know that. And it continues to oppress our people, and that's his only interest. And so I just really appreciate this work and all that was shared by Comrade Bola and Nicole and Amanda.
Uhuru. I think we're going to have to find another way to pull up the slides, but while we're doing that, Amanda, if you want to do the call, that'd be awesome.
Yes, 1 second. Hold on. My camera is loading, and then I can come.
Yeah, my computer's acting funny too.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. I brought my friend here so we can do this part, right? Say hey, right? Because we're here to talk about the important part, which is we got to bring these resources in so we can continue this important work. And say, hey, this is Takel, and he is a part of the Kijiji in Durham County in North Carolina, and his 2 siblings are currently in the system. So when we talk about this threat, and we talk about these children that need to come back into our community, when we think about the things that we have to do to get children home, to make sure when they come home, they continue to thrive, all of these things is why we are calling for resources, right? Tell them it's time to call for some resources. And so the goal today is $300. And I know we can complete this. And so the work is mission critical, but it can't happen without your support, the support of everybody that's on the Zoom, everybody that's looking on Facebook and everything. Again, our goal is $300. No donation is too small, nor is no donation too big. I promise you, we're not going to turn you away. Your donations go toward supporting the needs of the Uhuru Kijiji Child Care Collective, such as food, transportation, supplies, and any fees related to supporting the unique needs of the Kijijis and their families. And so you can donate by visiting www.anwoahuru.org/donate to invest in this very important work. You can also go to Cash App. I know we all got Cash App, right? So we can go to Cash App and put in $Anwo and that'll send the money right over, right? And so again, our goal is $300. I will start off with 30, right? That is my pledge for 30. All right, Paris got 20. So we have 50. What you got? What you gonna tell them? You covered it. So we have 50 all right too.
We got a donation on Facebook from Umi Rivers for $20.
All right.
Thank you, Umi.
Can you repeat the Cash App?
It is Anwo Uhuru. It's $Anwo Uhuru. Hadat, can you keep the numbers and give us a count?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Shoot at me again. I was trying to get the video up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
No worries.
So I think we almost halfway there, y'all. Again, this is us. It's for us, right? To be able to continue this important work. Like, we have to make sure that our pull-up game is strong whenever any of us is threatened. We got to make sure that we are able to thrive. And you want my earring? Mm-hmm. We got to make sure that we can show up. We got to, when it comes to knowledge, making sure that we can buy books, get to wherever we need to go. Like, these things, even printing material, when we do tabling, these things cost. And so we have to be able to continue to push forward. And so often, our organizations suffer because we will not succumb to this colonized thinking or say what they want us to say to be able to get these resources. But we're going to stay true. We're going to stay true to our mission, and we're going to do it ourselves until we can get it done. And so again, y'all, $300 is our mission. Where are we, Hadai?
Rage, she had it.
Oh, okay.
She took it from me.
Say, where we at? Where we at?
Hold on, y'all. I was
Okay.
trying to get this slideshow up.
No worries. I got this show. As a matter of fact, while you're doing that, I can give a little bit more detail into AMWO.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So the UKCC takes the childcare and education of our kids out of the hands of the state that colonize and oppress and kill our children, and empowers the parents in our community to assume responsibility over the lives of African children. We were founded in 2015 and was introduced at the African National Women's Organization founding conference. Our entire community is called upon to protect and determine the educational life and well-being of our children. The community is called on to rely on each other, as we've done historically. The UKCC also provides our communities with the opportunity to mobilize in its own interests, consistent with our culture, and around questions which bring out the best characteristics of our community. What else? Okay, so we have two main objectives: to support African women's entrance into political life by facilitating childcare among community members, offering community assistance and guidance; to organize and encourage African parents in our communities to establish a community-based collective where children are safely swaddled in authentic African community and traditions. The UKC is committed to helping African mothers. When our community is unified, no more mother will be arrested for the desperate act of leaving a child in a car or playground to achieve the goal of independence from colonial state by trying to get a job, going to work, any of those things. We plan on helping our parents to stay out of jail to the very best of our ability, because it's ridiculous we have to do that anyway. But many of us do not have a solid foundation or a community that can wrap themselves around us. So to build an AMWO branch, the first thing you got to do is you got to notify us and let us know you want to build a branch in your community. Number two, join the African National Women's Organization at anwouhuru.org, ANWOUHURU.org. And at that point, then we can establish the local leadership, which means we conduct an orientation. We complete principles of unity. We determine the structure of your UKCC. Is it something that you do every other Wednesday with another parent and you guys reciprocate? Determine the participation of other parents, and give days and weeks. Now, if you have a facility, that's different, because if you have a facility, of course you could help with more children. But if you just live in a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment and you have a child that you need help with, and there's another parent in another part of that building that needs help, we will work towards helping you get to know that parent. We will help with background checks, and we will try to make sure that you have services that benefit you in the end. So, the local leadership will help with all of those things once you sign up. So hopefully, like Nicole said, we definitely need you. This is a very serious organization, and there are too many parents out here who need help, who need our help. There are too many children being forced into foster care per week that could have benefited from being with, a loved one or someone in the community that cared. So yeah, that's in a nutshell what UKCC is all about. Amanda? Did the baby donate yet? Because I see him on the phone.
He over here, right?
Yeah. Teach him Cash App, girl. Teach him Cash App.
Right now we're at $140.
Awesome.
Oh, Saga has her hand up.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, hold on, bring her up.
We need to make him the poster child. Look at those lips. He'll bring in some dollars.
Uhuru, the chat was disabled. I couldn't put, but this song, I got 20 on it.
There you go. Thank you.
You
Well, but as you can see from the information that we provided so far, your resources are essential to serve the immediate and long-term goals of the revolutionary child care. And we can serve this community-based initiative whose goals is to improve the quality of life and well-being of African mothers, children, and families. Again, to donate, go to anwouhoo.org/donate, or find us on anwouhoo.org and click on, I think it's the donate button. And I want to thank everybody who's donated this far. We appreciate your support because it's a very important project. And well, Uhuru, thank you so much.
And Uhuru, Hada, I just want to also just explain that again, this is the reason why for our people, we are not able to fight back as hard, right? Or we're not able to organize as efficiently, is because everything takes resources. When we think about inflation and how everything is going up, right? Like, but that doesn't stop the work that needs to be done, right? That does not stop. We think about this little guy. I mean, his mom is going to court on February 23rd, right? And so that takes organization, that takes getting people where they need to be, that takes feeding people when they show up. All of these things takes resources. And so that's why we call on everybody to be the solution that we need to push this movement forward. No.
Uhuru. And you know, it's very similar to what happened here in DC. We had a family, a young woman who couldn't take care of her child, and UKCC helped her find a family who would, you know, be there for her. And over the last couple of weeks, she did say that she was not in a position to take care of her child. So we helped her find a family that is, you know, happy to take care of this little boy until she's able to get back on her feet. But one of the things that we had to do was they needed diapers. She needed clothes for him. She didn't have anything. She needed a pack and play. So some of the donations, a lot of the donation goes towards those simple things. Just a pack of diapers. If we can help you do that, we want to. And your donation helps with that. So having said that, we could go to Parrish for to lead the Q&A. Uhuru, Parrish.
All right. So who's Sister Comrades, thank you for such a rich discussion. At this time, we're going to open the floor for any questions. I do not see any questions in the Zoom chat. I don't have access to the Facebook. Anyone who has access to the Facebook, do you guys see any questions? We do have a question that we can kick off. I know oftentimes.
Can I just do something really quickly? Someone just donated $100. They made themselves anonymous.
Anonymous donator. Thank you so much.
So I know a common question is, how do I advocate for my child at school? So if anybody wanted to take on that question. And I see Sangha has her hand up again, unless this is the hand never went down for her.
Uhuru, I'll take that question. The person that asked the question, is your child in elementary school? You can unmute yourself and talk.
Sure, we'll say elementary, or just any, whether it be elementary or middle school. Like, how do we advocate for our children without fear of that backlash? Uhuru.
So it's what fear of backlash, because this is your child. So the first thing is what are you trying to intervene for? So is your child having an issue with reading or math? Are you trying to get assistance for that child to get maybe looked at, checked out to see if there's anything cognitively wrong with them as to why they can't maybe process information. So then you would talk to the school counselor, you would talk to the teacher, ask the teacher, what are the issues that they're having if they're coming to you? So, I mean, that's a broad question. So there's many ways that you can be an advocate. That's your child. So you can't let anybody else tell you how to raise your child. However, know that as a parent, it's your responsibility to know also what that child may need. You're not going to know everything that the people in the educational system know. However, ask your friends, ask other parents, have you ever had this situation happen? Look it up. We can look up TikTok, freaking IG. We can spend hours on social media looking at all this unnecessary fakeness. You better be able to go to a library on the computer and look up what they're telling you is the matter with your child. You better look up whatever it is. So you have that ability, the same way you have the ability to go to social media. So we can be advocates. Are we choosing to be? Do not fear the system. Fear you not being inside of it and understanding what they're trying to do to your child, and let them be aware of the fact that you are going to be that strong advocate for your child. And if you need help, now you know that you have support. And do not be afraid to text a question to us, email and ask, can you come with me? Or I don't know if you have an annual group that's supportive in your area, you better believe you better call on one of these women and say, can you come with me? If it's a Zoom, be like, can you come with me on Zoom? Ask for support, ask us. If you need a prayer to help you be protected while you go into this meeting, bam, it's done. But you have to ask. We've been taught that there's stupid questions and that you should fear asking. No, shame on you if you don't ask for help. Ask for help means you're strong. Not asking for help, I believe, is a sign of weakness. Uhuru, take it away.
Comrade Haddad.
Hopefully I answered your question.
Yeah, I think advocacy for children in school can be difficult, but a lot of people don't know. There are parent advocates out here who will come with you to an IEP meeting, to, a meeting with the principal, who will actually go with you and be there for you. There are certain things that people don't know, particularly for me. My child had, issues. So we had to have an IEP. And what they don't tell you is that the school is responsible to do certain things, and an advocate will help you make sure those things get done. And it's kind of like Bola said, we are not in the background. We don't always know what's available to us. And because the school could be trying to save money or not want to spend that money, they won't tell us. So I think advocacy is very important. Right now here in DC, we have a young man who is in foster care, but he's struggling in school because of the emotional toll that it's taken on him. Like, he's really struggling. And they did the same thing. They blamed the mother. Then they changed his foster home. And no matter what they do, this child is still struggling. And the mother is doing everything in her power. So one of the things that she and I talked about was that advocacy. She's very good for advocating for her children. However, in this situation, she may actually need to get a parent advocate or get an advocate from another organization. And what people don't know is that the school is responsible for paying for an advocate if you get it. So a lot of people think, oh, I don't have the money to do this. Legally, they have to. They have no choice but to pay for these things. So that's another way to advocate for your child. There are many ways. One more thing about the IEP, because I know there are a lot of people that have them. You are allowed to have any daggone body at that table that you want. You can call your aunt, you can call your mother, you can call your physician, you can call the pediatrician. It doesn't matter. Anybody who you want to be there can be there, because they're going to call everybody from the Department of Education to sit down with you. It's intimidating as hell. But yeah, you have a right to do these things. So child advocacy is very important. And if you know of anybody who's dealing with these issues, you can contact one of us. I know I'm always available to talk to a parent who needs that kind of advocacy and can direct them in whatever, way I can. I can tell them that lawyers are free. Educational lawyers are free. We don't pay for that. So there's so much free stuff out there that helps us advocate for our child that we don't know about. And I think that it's the reason why we don't know about it is because they do tend to keep it low key. They don't want to talk about it. For me, my child, we struggled so hard that when we were done, my child got a free education in Pennsylvania because the school here in DC could not help her. They did not have the therapeutic part of education. They didn't have a whole bunch of stuff. What we don't know is when our children have severe mental issues, they have to do everything in their power to help your child. A lot of times we feel like, okay, well, what am I going to do? My kid is sick and the school's not helping. Make them help. Get you an advocate, legitimately. So I didn't mean to, talk a hole in that issue, but
that's okay. I wanted to add to that IEP, and I'm glad you brought it up. My 21-year-old, who is a senior at FIU in Miami, was on an IEP from math from middle school on, and I loved it. Why? Because if I didn't get that IEP, he would not have been placed first period math classes where he's going to retain the information, because by sixth period, these children ain't thinking about no classes. So therefore, you got to think about how they're strategically putting them into these classes too. So an IEP is wonderful. You want your child to have these resources. And so he is doing excellent. And so he was on for math. My son has done 7 internships before he was a junior in IT, marketing, engineering, coding, you name it. So remember how they try to tell you, you get a B, C, D in the grades, but we compute math numbers differently. So do not allow your child to put who they are going to become into these grades. And so we have to make sure that we still give them the help, but tell these children, this help is going to make you soar. And I have an IEP meeting tomorrow for my 8th grade daughter. So guess what? I love it. You better take advantage of the resources. Remember, the system was built in a way that to keep our children here, okay? But you know the system now. So guess what? Let's use it to bring them here. That's it. Don't be afraid. Thank you, Hada.
Knowledge is power.
Yes. Yeah. And we learn from each other.
And we never want our children to be scapegoated. We never want the stigma of, oh, my child has an issue. I don't want them, on a list of people that are, no. Another thing people don't understand about those IEPs is if you do it right, your kid gets a free 4-year college. Been there.
It's that part.
Oh yeah, that part. And we don't want our kids, we don't want them to be, stigmatized. We don't want, people to see our kids as having a problem. But here's the thing. You might have a problem as a child, but free 4-year education never hurt nobody. And that's what happened to my bipolar daughter. She ended up going to UDC here in Washington with the free 4 years. So it was worth all the biting and kicking and scratching that we as a family had to go through.
Absolutely. And then also just reminding, this is your right. Like for being African, we don't have many of those, but in this arena, it really works out in our favor. So if we're in these systems, we need to be, I tell my kids all of the time, my former foster youth all of the time that still get government assistance. I said, well, work the system. Get what you can get out of it for right now. Make sure that you don't need it for the rest of your life, but work the system to your favor. If they're going to pay for your school, go to college. You mean you don't have to work right now? Go to college. Like if they're going to pay for your food because you don't make enough, take the money and then buy the healthy food. We have to, if we're going to have to be in the system, we need to learn how to make system work for us. And again, I'm gonna plug this in one more time. That is what we are for. We are all experts in our field. We know what we're talking about. And I only say that because sometimes we look at us as Black women like we really don't know. Sis, I know. I've been there, I've done that, and I'm a new parent, but I've been there and I've done it, and it's the first 4 years. And I've seen it. I've been in education for the last umpteen years. I have seen it time and time and time again. We need to take what is ours, and this is the beginning of taking what is ours. And if you don't feel comfortable, Zoom, they have to give you Zoom. If you say to them, I need to have this meeting on Zoom, You
Yep.
need to have that meeting on Zoom and they cannot deny you, and one of us will show up. Period.
Absolutely.
No matter what state,
Absolutely.
one of us will show up. That is a guarantee. I'm telling you, you will have
Uhuru, comrades. We
Uhuru.
have a question in the chat
Mhm.
on YouTube. It's from Goji Experience. Uhuru, I'm new to your discussions. Do you organize cooperative homeschooling anywhere in the USA? I'm curious to know if this is part of your solution. And as a solution to protect the family from CPS, I recommend multiple couples live together in much larger houses with shared spaces. Have y'all explored this strategy?
I'll take that. So cooperative learning is a wonderful idea. And yes, it actually has happened. It's happening in New York, it's happening in Maryland, it's happening, I mean, you have IM Hotep. There's so many now new schools for African children that have been created post-COVID. So you can go online and you can find many of these schools that are listed. As for ANWO having a cooperative learning program right now, I don't believe that they have one, Parish.
No, we don't right now.
Okay.
We don't have one.
Okay, so but that definitely is something to look into for the future. And then when you're talking about the house hacking is what it's referred to when you have home, you have this is how these people make their money off of our college children, okay? Where you have an apartment building that's harboring 4 people and each child is paying about $1,300. And so on this one apartment, you're making what, 5,200? And that's just one. And there's about 10, 15 on every floor. So that's doing it on a bigger level at the university level. However, we as community, yes. And so that's when it gets into the investments. So currently it's happening. However, that's not what we're discussing right now here, but you can come to our conference and we will get a little bit more in depth in that. But I believe in it. My son has educated me on it. And this is one reason where I believe that our generation, I'm in the hover generation, so that's the 40s and above, well, 40 to 50s or whatever it is. I don't know how old I am really, but whatever, that's what they tell me. And so my son had to educate me on, look, Mom, I said, look, you get into the real estate, you know about this because it's important. And so if our generation listens to this next generation, we can give them I think the monetary and the experience, but they are coming with some new innovative ways of acquiring things. And I love bridging the gap. And we have to talk to each other. Grandma, daughter, granddaughter, great-granddaughter now, because you've got some young mamas. And when we do that, we'll be able to. And can you imagine having your mother, your grandmother, and the great-grandmother in the same home? And you're all contributing to that home. And so house hacking is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing. And I think that we can do that and we can build and uplift more communities by doing it. So good question. And it is already in the works happening.
We have one last comment and then we gotta close out the Q&A.
Is that comrade?
We got some Q&As on here too.
Yeah, on here as well, on Zoom.
On Zoom, that's what I'm looking at.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
You want me to
go ahead. Go ahead, Parish.
All right. So it comes from Comrade Erica. She says, Uhuru, I recall struggling with those difficulties myself throughout school, and that fear of being taken or harm coming to our families rest heavy. I worked as an advocate for students. As such, we were mandated to report, as Comrade Amanda has said, and this often deters many students from coming forward. Being that advocate in IEP meetings on behalf of the students I worked with was often the one piece that assured that child's voice be heard when the parent was not well enough to advocate. Uhuru.
Yeah, I've been there, and any of the IEP meetings that I've gone to, I think that we get to, advocates talk as well. And a lot of times the parent does not know what to ask. They don't know what to say. They don't know anything. So we go in and we say, okay, so what about this? And you can't be vague. I want you to be specific about how you're going to teach little Johnny how to read. Are you going to start with the A's? You're going to start with the B's? You know what I mean? You have to be. And a lot of people have empty IEPs because they didn't know to ask those questions. And the facilitators are just lazy. So thank you. I appreciate that comment. And having said that, I got to go with Rage. Rage, you said we're running out of time.
Yes, comrades, we are winding down.
Okay.
This now would be the part where we would do our announcements. Let me try one more time to share my screen. All right, that's not working. So I'm just gonna read these to you. And Comrade Parrish, do you think you can put links in the chat for me? Uhuru, comrades. So tomorrow, Saturday, February 4th, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, 12 p.m. Pacific. We are going to be having another mass hands off Uhuru meeting. This one is called Meet the 4 Unindicted Co-Conspirators. You'll have an opportunity to hear from Chairman Omali Yeshitela, Director of Agitprop Akili and Nai, Chairwoman Penny Hess, and Jesse Neville. They will be discussing an update on where we are with our Hands Off Uhuru campaign. If you have not heard, on July 29th, the federal government attacked our movement, storming 7 office buildings and houses of our movement leaders. And this program right here is one of the reasons why they did it. We are one of the only organizations and movements working to build Black power and self-determination for our people. And we've seen throughout history how that creates a target right on our backs. So tune into this mass meeting, get involved in the movement to say hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa, because we have to keep this fight going. It's up to us to get our own liberation. And the state thinks that if they take our leaders, that all of this work stops. We have to continue pushing forward, and getting involved in this work is one way that you can do it. So register at tinyurl.com/hands-off-meeting. That's tinyurl.com/hands-off-meeting. Up next, we are going to be having our Black Women's Convention hosted here in St. Louis at Aquaba Hall. It's going to be an incredible convention with workshops, some of the topics that we covered tonight: parenting, healthy eating, being fit for the revolution. We also have a really amazing panel on women in prison, and just discussing the work that AMWO is doing to build Black power for Black women. And you don't want to miss this. You can go to convention.amwoahuru.org and sign up to be a part of the convention. We want to see you here. The first night, we're going to have an open mic night. So you'll get to have some spoken word and some food and fellowship. And it's just a really great opportunity to network with other Black women and femmes who are putting this work in for our freedom. We're also going to be having our 2nd annual Black Mothers March on the White House, May 14th, 2023. And you don't want to miss this. This march is incredible. Black women and parents from all throughout the country converging on the nation's capital, demanding Black community control of child protection and child welfare. And you don't want to miss it. It's going to be incredible. So go to blackmothersmarch.com and register to be a part of this march. We also have events leading up to the march the day before. You can participate in family yoga. And it's just a really great opportunity to once again network with people who are fighting for the liberation of our people. And once again, I want to encourage everybody to donate. The work that we're doing, it's up to us to push it forward. Invest in the liberation of your people. Donate to this work. Go over to anwoahuru.org/donate or send it to the Cash App at anwoahuru, #anwoahuru. And another way that you can support us is by shopping Decolonize, our hair and body line. Go over to decolonize.com, get you some liberation mist, some of the body butters, take care of your hair, your body, and your mind, and support Anwo in the work that we're doing. So once again, calling on y'all to join this work. Head over to anwoahuru.org/join. Get involved. You can come on this webinar and teach us something. You can be a part of educating your community and building it up to be better. You can be a part of building Black power for yourself and the people around you. It's up to us. Be a part of this work. Join Anwo. Uhuru.
Uhuru, what can you talk a little bit more about the healing circle that's going to be February 26th?
Actually, I'm going to pass that to Nicole.
Okay.
Why don't you tell us about the healing circle?
And so, hi guys again. The healing circle is going to be a lot of this, to be honest. It will be structured in a way where women can come together, share their shared experiences, and then get solution for some of the stuff that we're experiencing. We are in the midst of planning for it right now. And really, I shared with a couple of my comrades, I wanted to see how today went, to see what we needed to address. And moving forward, I think the first one, I know the first one is going to be on mom guilt and the colonized mom. And so I look forward to seeing you guys. It will start 12 p.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. What's the other one? Can't think right now.
Eastern?
So
No,
yeah, Eastern
3 p.m.
and Central.
Time, and then 2 p.m. Central. Because Central's okay, yeah.
Can I point out that this is a part of colonization? Because who gave man the right to dictate? You can tell me when I need to change my clocks, when this one is 3 hours later, or this daylight savings time. This is part of the problem, people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're going to be providing this, whether it's once a month or once every other month. We're going to come together. I think healing doesn't take place the first time. Sometimes it takes a while, and then some things fall off. But we're going to be here until the wheels fall off. So I hope you guys can join us.
Uhuru, comrade. And Uhuru, and thank everybody for your engagement in this section, and for the comrades and all you comrades for taking these important questions as we continue to build this program. And as we close today's webinar, I'd like to encourage our listeners to find out more information about the UKCC at anwoahuru.org, ANWOUHURU.org, and click on the projects tab and the Kijiji icon and learn more about us. Follow us at Anwo Facebook page and stay up to date on upcoming events. You can also find us on Instagram at @Uhuru_Kijiji, KIJIJI. And before we close out, I want to salute our leadership and president of the African Women's Organization, Yejide Orimilla, whose vision and leadership has helped to make this idea Kijiji collective a plan put into action through the theory and principle understanding of African internationalism, which is a theory that guides our work in the Uhuru, as well as my comrades, Rage, Parrish, Amanda, Nicole, Bola, everybody. And thank you so much for the engaging discussions. Lastly, we want to thank you, our viewers, supporters, and those who donated today for investing in self-determination and liberation of African women and femmes. So again, Uhuru, African women must lead.
Uhuru, there's one more question that came in
yes.
on Facebook. And the question was, is this just for Black people?
Okay, who wants to answer that? Yes, it's for African it's the African National Women's Organization. Yes, it's predominantly for Black women, African women.
Yeah, we are here to support African people who have been historically oppressed and forced to live in these conditions. And we support Indigenous people finding their way to decolonize as well. But this organization is for African people.
Now, if you're asking the question as for, are you able to donate? Are you able to support the African National Women's Organization? Of course. Everyone, every single one, it doesn't matter what walk of life, we are all humans. And so therefore, if your question is, an objective is to help further it, yes, we welcome everyone to monetary donation.
Uhuru.
So thank you for joining us. Parrish, one more, you got something else?
Nope. On that note, African women must lead.
Right. And with that, we will conclude our webinar. And we just want to thank everybody for coming. And our next webinar, please get on Facebook and Instagram, and we will post our next webinar. So thank you so much. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Touch one.
Thank God.